Hi everyone and welcome to Bridging the Gap. I'm your host, Kelly Lovell, and this week we're talking about women in leadership with our expert guest, Brenda Halloran. Brenda is the chair of the board of directors at Startup Canada and CEO of her own company, Brenda Halloran Inc. Prior to this, she served as mayor of the City of Waterloo for 8 years, from 2006 to 2014. Brenda, I'm so pleased to have you on our show today. Thank you again for joining us. Do you maybe want to share with our listeners a little bit of how you got started in your journey and end up becoming mayor of Waterloo?
Well, when I became mayor in 2006, the city was involved in the intelligent community application process. And in 2007, the City of Waterloo was named the Intelligent Community of the Year by the Intelligent Community Forum out of New York. So this was a big recognition of what was happening in Waterloo. Through that, I learned and saw the importance of global connections and building the Waterloo brand globally so that our companies, our citizens, and our universities and colleges would be able to benefit from the City of Waterloo being known globally. So I embarked on doing that, on selling this community, on going to conferences, speaking about Waterloo and about Waterloo region, speaking about Canada and the value of investing in Canada, the importance and value of the City of Waterloo, because at that time BlackBerry was a huge company. Our largest Canadian tech company was right here in Waterloo. And, of course, having the University of Waterloo and Wilfrid Laurier University here and other very well-known global corporations. So I spent many years selling the Waterloo brand wherever I could and going to any conference that I was invited to and doing presentations about Waterloo and the region in Canada. And what I learned from that is the value of taking companies and our brand global, because Canadian companies are not out there as much as they should be. We are losing our competitive edge. We are not marketing or branding ourselves or going global in a bigger way, and I think that's to the detriment of companies and our startups, our technology base, and our country. So I learned that quite early in my political career. And through those opportunities and the connections I made with mayors and businesses around the world, our brand was quite well known. The City of Waterloo was very well known globally. And I was able to sign friendship agreements with cities like Chongqing, China, which had 35 million people. They reached out to me as the mayor and said they wanted to be friends with Waterloo. The city of Xi'an, China, which is a large technology hub. It's, of course, the city of terracotta warriors. I signed an agreement with the city of Taipei and Eindhoven, the Netherlands. We had a three-way trade agreement set up to benefit our companies and our academic institutions. So I just am very passionate about the importance of Canada being a global entity and our companies looking beyond Canadian borders and not even focusing as much on North America, but the vaster markets that are out there. So I just picked this up through my experience as mayor, and it just is something that I believe passionately about and see the importance and value in doing.
In that, I see two things that really stand out to me in your explanation. One was the concept of going global, but also your focus on creating alliances and friendships and that collaboration. And then two, on the importance of branding. And so I want to touch on those a little bit further. How has, firstly, going on focusing on the branding side, how has, in your experience, the effect of branding, like how does your personal brand affect your leadership when you're a leader? Because I think there's always that debate in terms of like, as we're growing as leaders, should we be building a personal brand? Does that actually inhibit our career if we're trying to go into a certain sector? Is it good? Is it bad? In your opinion, does branding play a role in leadership?
Absolutely. I mean, you're the one who's the face of yourself. You're your own brand. And I strongly believe in branding yourself and building your brand, and because there's nobody else but you. You're the leader of your own destiny. You're the brand. So your brand, I think, should be really strongly aligned to your own business or to your whatever you're doing, if it's whatever venture you're taking on. Because without people knowing you, trusting you, getting to see the person that you are, the integrity of you as a person, your honesty, your trustworthiness, your business savvy and brilliance, why would they invest in you or want to do business with you? So I think it's really, really important. And I just recently read quite an interesting article about the importance of warmth and trustworthiness in making sales and making connections. And I think we're really great on using social media and Twitter and Facebook, LinkedIn, and a new company I'm involved in, ComLinked, which is a business-to-business social enterprise platform for businesses. But we can't forget the importance of people to people. And I think that's been lost a lot with all the hurry and flurry about becoming social and using media and digital technology. We're all people, and if you can't sell yourself and your own brand and be known for that, then I really think that it's a challenge and would be a struggle to grow and develop your brand and your business.
I like the people to people, because I think that is something that as we move into the digital era, we forget that sometimes. And I wonder, though, if that is actually a unique trait or something that women leaders bring to the table, in the sense that innately we have kind of the maternal instincts and things that I find women tend to be a little bit more warmer or kind of focus on networking and relationships sometimes than male counterparts. So would you say that that's an asset that we could bring as leaders to the table?
It is one of our strongest assets, and I think women bring in a whole different tone to a conversation. We look at things very differently than men, and I think men and women together are very powerful. But women have a different sense of business. We have a different sense of connecting and working together. For us, a lot of it is that social connectivity, that eye-to-eye contact, sitting down, getting to know each other, building the trust and the ability to just communicate. And we all know once you sit down with someone, you know within 5-10 minutes whether that person is going to be someone that you would want to do business with. And so I think that's more important to women, and maybe I have to speak for me. It's more important for me to feel comfortable and confident with the person who I'm going to be dealing with. And I can't get that over a Twitter message or an email or even a phone call. I really do want that face-to-face contact and build that relationship, because to me, relationship building is all about trust and integrity and knowing that this person is going to be working with you not only for your best benefit but for their benefit as well.
And with that in mind, with building that and the importance of the personal connection, so when we look forward and kind of how you built these alliances with these global these global cities, obviously in person would be difficult in some of those conversations, I would have imagined. So how did you go about building that trust or following that intuition in those conversations, in those collaborations?
Well, when I was the mayor, I did travel to those cities to sign the agreements with the other mayors, and that was very critical to the success of developing that relationship. And I found that in China and India and Taiwan, that it was very important to them as well to meet face-to-face and to know each other and to establish that bond and that, basically that friendship. So it is really important. And again, you can sign anything over the internet, or you can sign agreements and do all that, but what does it really mean? What value does it have? Just a piece of paper with a signature. So we still need, regardless of all our social media and our technology, we still need people to drive it and people to make these things happen. And I can't stress enough how important that is. And as a business person, as a leader, you need to invest in yourself and make sure that you have the skill set and the learning. You're always learning and you're always challenging yourself to be better at what you're doing. And that reflects well to other people. People see you doing that in your own personal growth.
And when I think building those people skills sometimes comes innate to some individuals, depending on your personality type, and others, those social settings and networking can actually be a little bit of a scary concept. So for those who are not necessarily your social network butterflies, so to speak, do you have any tips for them to start to get more comfortable in that area, or how to start building those connections?
It is difficult to walk into a room as a single person and try to network, and it is a skill set, and it's something that develops over time, and pushing yourself to do it. So if you want to be a business person and a leader, you have got to push yourself beyond your own comfort zone and grow and learn from it. But I always encourage people, just set up face-to-face coffee meetings. Get used to talking to people. Find a mentor. Look for a coach. Sit with somebody and say, okay, I'm going to have a conversation with this person, and I could use a little bit of help on it. And even practice that conversation, and practice words and using phrases, and get yourself feeling confident about what you're going to talk about. And being able, especially as women, to put your hand out and give a good professional handshake and look the person in the eye. And I quite often see women shy away from that, and it's really important. It's that's all part of your brand and being confident with yourself, because you are important and you are special, and people do want to get to know you. So never think that, oh, who would ever want to talk to me? Everybody does, because you're important, you're special, you matter. So try to get beyond that mindset of shyness. But I think a big one is finding a mentor and sitting and talking with them and getting their feedback.
Yes, and body language for sure is key. I like that you pointed out the handshake. Still to this day, I am surprised how many, when I'm at networking events and I shake fellow colleagues' hands, and you get the Jello handshake from a lot of women, where it's just this little flimsy thing that you're like, what is this? And you get the men who like crush your fingers, and you need to have a firm handshake. It shows that you are confident. Even those small little things just show that I know I have a right to, I deserve to be here type of thing. And those eye contacts, those little things that even if you're shy and you don't know what to speak yet, you can still exuberate that confidence through those small little body language techniques.
Yes, and something else I find is, and practice your handshake with other people, and looking somebody right in the face and saying, hi, I'm Brenda Halloran, and, it's great to meet you, but don't follow it up with a business card right away, because that's a conversation stopper. And people are doing that. I've noticed that. So the minute somebody's, you introduce yourself or they introduce yourself, they're pulling out their business card. Well, my attention's diverted to the card, and away from that first few minutes of making that really great connection. So hold back on your business cards. Don't use them as a ploy to just kind of, get rid of a bit of time or something. Stay true to what you're doing with that person and stay engaged in that initial conversation, that initial meeting. Do your great handshake, do your eye-to-eye contact, and then ask them questions about themselves. People forget to ask questions. They'll wait for somebody to just talk. Well, say, yes, I'm Brenda Halloran. I'm the chair of the Board of Startup Canada. I'm really interested in what you're doing. Can you tell me something about your business?
Mm-hmm.
Easy to do.
And people like to talk about themselves too. And so the more you get them to, if you get people to talk, I think I was reading an article once where it was saying the best conversations are the time when they speak 90% and you speak 10%, because people innately, when they walk away from a conversation, if they've spent time just speaking about themselves, they tend to have a more positive impression of how the conversation went. I don't know if you've experienced that similar, but it's important to I find engage the individual rather than you just spewing things at them. They kind of just leave. If you do that, then by the time you're done, they just kind of look at you with this glazed look of, that was a lot to take in. Okay, what do I do with it?
Yeah, so true. Yeah, I tend to ask a lot of questions. I love to gather information and find out more about the person, because as they're talking, it's leading me through my own ideas of, okay, where are the opportunities with this person, or if maybe there's none and I need to end that conversation and not drag it on. You know, there comes a point when you think, I'm not going to gather anything from this person. They're a great person. They're making widgets. I don't need widgets. Or they're doing this, and I don't need that. But, boy, it was a great connection. And another thing is what I find that especially women are doing, and I'm having this happening, is that they are awkward about handing their card, and then they say, well, you could email me. And I say to them, I will not be emailing you. If you are interested in getting in touch with me, you can email me. And I know it startles them at first, but this is a heads up to your listeners. Do not ask that person to email you. You take the initiative, and you say, thank you for your card. Once you've had your conversation, then exchange your cards, and that's a way to end the conversation. But then say, I'll be back in touch with you. Thank you so much.
That's the follow-up is key. I really like that you pointed that out, because a lot of the times you have to imagine, especially if you're trying to speak to someone who is one of the leaders in the room, do you have any idea how many business cards that they're probably walking away with that have gotten given to them, and they end up just going in a pile, and most likely they're not going to look at it. So one, yes, don't make it the go-to when you first meet with them, because they're not going to remember the card. They're going to remember your conversation. And two, even if they do ask for your card and they take it, make sure that you do follow up with them, because most likely they'll forget, or they won't, or they'll just have too many, or they're so busy that they just don't have time.
You're absolutely right, Kelly.
So looking now at the landscape of kind of the leadership sector, so to speak, do you find that as we're evolving, that millennial women, or like the next generation of women leaders, face different barriers than past generations?
No, I don't. I think that we're spending too much time categorizing people because of the year that they're born in. I think we need to be focused on people's skills and capabilities and where they're at. You can have someone who's 20 who's an amazing leader, or somebody at 75 who's an amazing leader. And I really personally think we shouldn't be categorizing people based on what year they're born in. I know that might be, it's a different way of thinking, but I've met people like you who you could have been born in 1935, you know what I mean, or 2015. You're still an amazing leader. You're not categorized in a group. It's the person. So everybody is unique. It doesn't matter what year you were born in. It's the skills that you bring to the table. It's who you want to be and what you've invested in yourself to become what you want to be. Every single person has roadblocks. We all have roadblocks, whether you're a man or woman, whatever age you are. It's how you manage them yourself and what you want to take out of life and be. So I do come at it from a bit different angle.
Well, leadership is ageless, right? You can be a leader at any age, and I think that's an interesting perspective for sure. But with that in mind, looking at kind of how industry has changed and such as well, are there different, like in terms of building your skills? I find we have more access sometimes to opportunities than sometimes we realize. So looking at the landscape now, would you say that there's any different strategies that we should be looking for as the kind of the sector's evolving that we should be considering or staying on top of the trends?
That's a really good question. I'm really passionate about people finding mentors and looking for opportunities to connect with people who can help you grow with your own skill set and provide you with opportunities that you might not even thought were available. And I think people need to be really open and looking further, look at things in a different set of eyes, not just the same, well, I'm going to do this and this and this. Sometimes be nimble and flexible and be ready for change and be just ready to jump onto something that comes along your way and just try it. Take that risk. Know that if you fail, it's not the end of the world. It just means you're going to try something new and be even more successful, and you've learned from some of the things that might have been difficult and challenged you. So for me, I've always jumped on anything that came along that I thought would be an amazing experience. Might not have been the best one, but it's something to reflect on and say, boy, that was tough, or that was great. I've learned from it, and now it just gives me a bigger base for this opportunity or experience that comes along. So I tend to look at just what opportunities are there, and is it right for me, and should I go for it, and take that risk.
And sometimes you never know until you try, and that's the things. I think part of the reason, though, one of the barriers with that too is that self-doubt and that confidence. It stems right back to what we were saying earlier and I think you put it wonderfully in our one meeting of I'm CEO of me, in the sense that you need to own your own leadership before you can expect others to give you that same respect.
Absolutely. And you know, Kelly, every time I tell somebody I've started my own corporation, I am my own brand. I'm Brenda Halloran Inc., and I'm the CEO of myself, of me. Everybody gets the same wonderful, lovely look on their face of, yes, that's right. Because I say, but you're the CEO of yourself. It's just be in charge of yourself, because there's nobody else. You are the only one who has complete control over yourself and what you're going to do and what you want to be and how you're going to get there. So that, to me, is just as clear as I can make it to a person, is that I am the CEO of me, and I'm going to take myself to where I want to be.
And looking at that moving forward now, so now looking at women in power and such, do you find that are companies run by women different? Are there any specific traits that stand out that you find that are different, or are they too similar to tell?
I think that there is some differences. I think that they have a lot more awareness of people's private needs, so that if they have a sick family member, if they need to do something with their children, if they're just tired, I think there's a lot more flexibility on just those type of personal issues, and there's more of an understanding. I think there's a different approach to collaboration, and women tend to like to meet, sit down, discuss things. Not maybe as focused as men are. We tend to think about a lot of things. We can hear a lot of voices in the room and have a lot of conversations and still come to a really great decision after it's all done. But I think we have a bit more of an openness to listen to differing opinions or different ideas and make a change. Like we can change our minds and not feel that it's not impossible to change something that, if you've decided on A and then after a big discussion you realize it should be B, it's okay to go to B, and we give ourselves more allowance that way, I think.
Focusing on that a little bit further and connecting it back to our conversations about building your personal brand, how important is it to stay authentic to who you are, and how much should we give in terms of conforming to what industry's kind of expecting or asking of us as a leader to succeed? And what I mean by that is sometimes there's pressures in certain sectors to act, to look, or be a certain way, and that sometimes conflicts with what our personal brand might be or what we personally believe is our identity. So in your experience, what is the kind of the distribution of how much we should give or take, so to speak, in that scenario?
That is a wonderful question. I think that the most important thing to be is authentic to yourself, because when everybody's gone, it's just you left with you. And if you don't feel proud of yourself, if you think that you can't look in the mirror and be proud of that face looking back at you, or that you have done things based on your own integrity, your own morals, and your own values, that to me is so important. And when I was a mayor for 8 years, I was tested in many ways, but I always went back to what was my inner strength and my inner beliefs and my inner feelings of my own personal integrity and morals and values and beliefs. I've worked for companies where that has been tested, and I have left companies when I did not feel that it reflected my personal values and integrity. And have made tough decisions. I left nursing. I left a company where it was very, very difficult as a woman to work because of the comments being made and the expectation. And I refused to change myself or lower the bar to anything else but what was best for me. And I know for women it is a challenge to work in an industry where there's an expectation. But I think that if you carry yourself with a great sense of pride and respect, and you reflect that in your actions and in the way you speak and in the way you handle yourself, that aura goes forward with you, and it will stop people from pushing their negativity or maybe their values that don't collide with yours, or do collide with yours, I should say. I think it intimidates them. And I think what's really important is that you feel secure in yourself and that you really like yourself. And there are times when I haven't perhaps liked myself, or the way I carried a conversation, or what I did, or how I made comments, and I every day reflect on what I did, my behavior, what I said, and if I didn't like it, I change it and make myself a better person. And that I do all the time. I still do it, and forever I'm checking in with myself. Did I like that? Was I happy with the way I handled that? Where was my integrity in all of this? I check in with myself all the time, and I challenge myself to be a better person.
I think the checking in piece is a really good tactic to have, because especially in business, sometimes things can just move really quickly, and it's really easy to kind of get swept up in that current sometimes and lose your identity, but unintentionally, just because it's kind of slowly happens as you're getting so kind of tailor focused on your goal that you don't even notice that you're losing yourself until you're so far down the road that you look, like you said, you look in the mirror and you don't know who you're looking back at. So I think maybe a strategy for listeners is doing something like a weekly journal or a check-in like you're mentioning, where you can kind of just get back to am I me, and even having some me time, I think, is something too that sometimes we might forget. At least I do.
And that is important. Even if me time is just, sitting watching TV and just being alone with yourself, that's okay. Me time doesn't have to be anything really exciting. It could be sitting in your car when you're driving back from something. That's me time. But it's a mindset of reflecting on yourself instead of just, gazing at something and not thinking. For me time is about reflecting on myself and thinking, what do I need to do to improve myself, or how can I help somebody else? There are other people who need my help, and because I always strongly believe that by reaching out and helping others, we learn ourselves and we become better people. So yeah, me time is an interesting phrase, and sometimes I think we think too much that it's got to be meditating or sitting in the spa or something. Me time is just gazing out a window, but thinking internally about who you are and what needs to happen for yourself.
Yes, and I think a really great, from all of our conversations so far, it's a really clear theme that's coming from everything, I think, is this idea of a strong self-identity and confidence. And through reflection, through building relationships, finding that authentic self, all the other pieces come. You have authentic relationships, you can build trust better, you can build those networks or those alliances that you might need. And more importantly, when you have that strong sense of self, you're able to find mentors who can help guide you with those other things. Or sometimes they can even help you with building that self if you don't have it yet. But that reflection in that intra-reflection seems to be key as a leader.
Absolutely. Because how can you be a leader if you don't really know how to lead yourself?
Yes, you can't expect others to follow if you can't even follow yourself. I love that.
It's true. Yes.
Yes, very much so. Well, Brenda, you are such a pleasure to have, and I really appreciate you taking the time to share some of your insights with us today. Now it's your turn. Please share your thoughts, what you feel is important in developing as a leader, and how are you reflecting on me time and building that inner confidence. Share your thoughts with the hashtag Bridging the Gap, and connect with myself and Brenda on our Twitter chat. Thank you so much for joining us.